Next Gen Madden 21 is just 2 weeks away, and last week EA finally gave us our first bit of info. They gave us the gameplay trailer, they gave us the deep dive into the gameplay itself, talking about next gen stats that power the next gen player movements, but a lot of people felt like they didn't really put out a whole lot of info. It didn't seem like the game was that much of an upgrade over current gen. They left out a lot of details in the initial release, but today they have come through with some more information, and it looks like they're going to be releasing info pretty much for the next 2 weeks up until the release on December 4th. Now, I did make a video last week going over some of the other info that Operation Sports put out about some of the presentation things, but today EA does a full deep dive into all of the presentation. I'm talking sidelines, crowds, the game day on the field, the pregame, all of that stuff, areas that Madden has been lacking in for the last 2 console generations, things that people have complained about for a long time, it looks like are finally getting a much needed facelift going on to next gen, and that's what we're going to dive into today. Now, if you are new to the channel and you never want to miss out on any of this info, especially the, all the next gen info that's going to be dropping for the next 2 weeks, specifically when they drop the actual in-game gameplay, make sure you subscribe, turn the bell icon on so that you never miss any of these uploads. Less than half of you that watch these videos aren't subscribed. Maybe you didn't know that you weren't subscribed. Maybe you do know and you just don't want to subscribe, and that's fine. But if you never want to miss these videos, it's very important to have those notifications on because you get notified the second these videos publish and you're always in the loop. So let's go over the presentation deep dive that EA just put out. It says here, feel game day come to life with authentic new environments in NFL stadiums unlocked by a new deferred lighting system that improves player fidelity and enhances the details of the game in every part of the stadium. Immerse yourself in the sounds of the game with spatialized location-based audio, and brave the elements as stunning weather detail powered by next-gen tech adds a new level of realism. We're excited to share all of the new features in detail. So first they talk about the deferred lighting and rendering. It says here, authentic new environments unlocked by a new deferred lighting system create ultra-realistic football experiences and player fidelity, enhancing the game in every part of the stadium. You see more detail everywhere. Everything looks more realistic with newly crafted next-gen lighting models. Players have never looked better and shine even at more challenging scenarios like nighttime, non-clear weather types, and dome stadiums. Pyro VFX casts dynamic shadows which dramatically improve the fidelity on player runout tunnels. Deferred lighting allows for more lighting sources in our NFL environments, creating beautifully lit details. Now, this is something I've talked about for months leading up until today. These games graphically are never going to jump how they did from like PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2 because we're so much further along and so much more maxed out. But where things do jump is the fact that lighting is getting so much better. They're able to take advantage of lighting in almost like the same way that movies and TV shows do. And you can see in the trailer and in the screenshots they've put out, obviously it looks so much better. That part was expected. We expect it to look better, but the lighting is the thing that's really taking things up to that next level and making it look so much more realistic, because this is just something they couldn't take as much of an advantage of on the previous console. So that is obviously a change that's coming presentation wise. So up next we have next level game day and sidelines. It says here, new contextual player bench and fan reactions let you feel the explosive passion of the last minute winner or a game clinching touchdown. And pregame cinematics deliver an unprecedented match day experience to immerse you in the sights and sounds of the NFL. In-game experiences deliver authentic, dense sidelines and beautifully rendered crowds that you can interact with alongside post-play player movement and reactions true to the NFL. Your teammates who once only sat on the sidelines now have more meaningful interactions during the game. The improved hardware provided by next-generation consoles has allowed us to greatly increase the number of unique sideline entities while simultaneously adding levels of interactivity, authenticity, and reactivity never before showcased in Madden NFL. Players on the sidelines have player likeness, name, body type, and skin type. Players will jump out of the way of a ball out of bounds or move out of the way when a player runs or is pushed out of bounds. Sideline characters are set up to watch and react to the play. Improved head tracking and unique interactions for all characters in the player box without twinning. I'm not even sure what that means, twinning. I guess like multiple players just doing the same thing at the same time. Anyway, this is something, people have complained about this for as long as I can remember. This is something that needed a serious upgrade, been needing it, and it's finally here. You're going to have real players on the sideline, real player likeness, body types, the name on the back of their jersey. We know the old sidelines, it was literally fake players, like the worst body types ever, like these super skinny, just not realistic body types, no name on the back of the jersey, none of that stuff. Now, again, in the trailer, they showed the old sidelines and people were losing their minds, and rightfully so, because they're like, how is this still not updated? But meanwhile, it is updated, and they did not capture that in the trailer, and I just can't understand why. You could have at least gave people one less thing to complain about, and they didn't take advantage of that. But I think even bigger than it just being the player likeness and things like that, it's the fact that they actually are going to be alive, because the sidelines in Madden have just been so dead. Like, outside of actual cutscenes, which is one thing, but like the actual in-game, they are so dead in how they react to what's going on in the field, and past games have done this much better. So, I mean, saying that the players are going to jump out of the way if you run out of bounds, or if the ball goes out of bounds, or they're going to react to the play, and there's going to be different players doing different things on the sidelines, I think that is a huge presentation upgrade. It's not something I really want to pat them on the back so much for, because it just feels like it's so long overdue, but I think as a player of the game, you have to be happy that it's finally here, above all else. Now let's get into the celebrations with the crowd. So this is something that, you know, the crowds are another part of the game that's been dead. You couldn't really interact with them very much. It says here, the following stadiums give you the ability to celebrate in the crowd. They don't really go any deeper than that, but here are the stadiums that you can celebrate with the crowd. You apparently can't do it in every stadium. I'm not sure why that's a thing. Maybe these are just some of the stadiums where you can interact more, where the players maybe interact with the crowds more. I don't really know, because like obviously you see the Lambeau Field is on here, so you know you can do the Lambeau Leaf. That's a big thing. But here's the stadiums that you can do that in. So you can't do it in every single stadium. That's the one thing I'm just unsure about. Like, shouldn't they add that for every single stadium, right? But I guess maybe this is some of the more notable ones where players interact with the crowd more. I don't know. I don't know the reasoning to this at all. But it would seem like they should add all of the stadiums. But I guess, you know, hey, it's a start. Next up, we have next-gen player bodies. It says here, NFL athletes are built differently depending on the positions they play, and these differences are more distinct thanks to next-generation technology that delivers new levels of detail and realism. All player bodies in the next generation of Madden NFL are brand new to accurately represent the various athletic body types across the league. See deeper definition in player physiques, while dynamic lighting accentuates details such as faces, hair, and uniforms to take athletes to a whole new level of realism. With the higher processing power of the next-gen hardware, we can visually represent the player bodies to match their real-life counterparts. The number of vertices and texture resolutions have nearly doubled and have been authored to fully utilize the graphics processor of the next-gen consoles. Along with the outer appearance of the player bodies, the next-gen consoles have also opened up opportunities to upgrade our render skeleton to better demonstrate secondary body motions and real-life muscle deformations. Players will also look and feel different with improved animations that will be noticeable on their bodies, impacting things like muscle movement and padding. Now, this is like another one of those things that EA has just always kind of lacked in, just having more varieties of body types. There's a lot of, you know, bodies that look very similar in their game because it didn't seem like they had enough variety. Now, I mean, from what they're saying, it appears that we're going to see a lot more of that, which, I mean, again, it's like, it's hard to pat them on the back for that because it feels like that's something they should have been able to accomplish in older games. But I guess, again, better late than never. They're going to be more definition. They're going to look more realistic. However, in some of the gameplay footage and some of the screenshots, the player bodies do still look off to a lot of people, especially when you consider pads. So again, not sure if they didn't fully capture how much of a change it is, much like how they didn't do that with the sidelines, but apparently there's going to be more body types. It's going to be more realistic. So more realistic, better improvements. They're always, that's a good thing to hear. We're just going to see how much of an improvement is it really. Next up, they have location-based audio. Now, audio, I mean, is such a huge thing with games now. That lighting and audio is where games are really taking things to that next step as we like progress along. So here they say, whether you're running out of the tunnel in Atlanta or leaping into the stands in Green Bay, you hear the spine-tingling roar of the stadium thanks to spatialized audio technology new to Madden that wraps you around for a completely immersive experience. Utilizing crowd placement data that provides one-to-one fidelity of crowd members in the stands, we are able to accurately place cone outputs utilizing spatialized effects and precise orientation. This means you will hear the impact of spatialized sound effects, especially in the huddle and when the crowd roars. Audio is an underrated attribute of the total gaming experience, and location-based audio allows you to feel more like a player on the field with the audio soundscape that wraps around you authentically as it would in a stadium environment. So another area that Madden has lacked, right? Game-winning touchdown doesn't feel that much different than the first play of the game. Running out of the tunnel doesn't really feel anything special, so now it sounds like the audio is going to play a big role in that, which it should. Next, we have stunning weather detail. It says Mother Nature comes alive in Madden like never before. And stunning new detail, see standing water on rain-drenched sidelines and cold winter snow in the atmosphere. Visually enhanced weather conditions also affect cloth definition on athletes to match environmental variables. With the improved graphical power of the next-gen consoles, we can render 10 times more particles while keeping our game running at 60 frames per second. The real-time surface of the materials shaders have been upgraded to fully utilize the higher processing power of the CPU and GPU to represent surfaces that react to weather. See new rain and snow impacts specifically on helmets and jerseys where it affects the fabrics and sideline floors. So we've kind of seen a little bit of this with some of the trailer footage and in some of the screenshots. Obviously the weather does look a whole lot better, another area that needed a big upgrade, but one thing they don't mention is it really affecting the gameplay. And I think for people, yes, we want it to look better, we want it to look real on the jerseys, on the sidelines, but if it's not affecting the gameplay, then it's kind of only like being half done, and they don't mention that, so I'm assuming it's not really going to affect the gameplay a whole lot. You might see some slipping that you see now, like when it rains or when it snows, but maybe not too much more than that. And lastly here they talk about controller haptics. It says, sense the impact of every catch, tackle, and kick with immersive controller haptics. A new PlayStation 5 DualSense controller with rich and responsive haptic feedback deepens the gameplay experience, letting you feel the rhythm of the game in your hands. Players will get audio and haptic feedback that can teach them the game and immerse them in the experience. Imagine feeling a warning of an oncoming blitzing linebacker or feeling the thud of a game-winning catch in your hands. Thanks to new dual-channel vibration tech driven by haptic waves, feedback can be delivered to each hand separately to let you feel what the players feel on the field. With the use of adaptive triggers, users feel resistance on the trigger to give feedback on a player breaking a tackle or running low on stamina. We've talked about this before. They have kind of touched on this a little bit in the past. This is going to be a much bigger thing on PlayStation than it will be on Xbox. You're going to have the haptic feedback that's like never before. You're going to feel parts of the controller rumble in specific areas to kind of have you sensing pressure. The triggers are going to stiffen and get more have more resistance when you're trying to break through a gang tackle or running low on stamina, to make you actually feel in your hands how the player is feeling on the field, which I think is definitely a cool and probably very underrated aspect, but it's mostly going to be taken advantage of by PlayStation users because Xbox has not really announced that they've done anything special, at least in my knowledge, with the controller haptics for the Xbox Series X. But that's the deep dive presentation here. What do you guys think? Do you think this stuff sounds good? Are you excited about this? Do you think this is good to hear? Is this something that's going to make you want to buy the game, or is it still not quite enough for you to upgrade if you haven't already bought Madden 21 on current gen? Hope you enjoyed the video. I will catch you guys next time.